And just before we go, let's quickly bring you a recap of some of the top legal stories we're keeping our eyes on.
We begin with the report that the federal government has filed fresh charges against the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, on allegations of false assets declaration, an offense said to have been committed between 2003 and 2015. The fresh charges, which is the third in the series, was filed and signed by an Assistant Chief State Counsel in the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. At the last sitting of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the 18-count amended charge was brought to the attention of the chairman of the tribunal, Mr. Danladi Umar, by the lead counsel to the Senate President, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Kanu Agabi. Mr. Agabi objected to the continuation of proceedings, insisting that the action of the prosecution was in bad faith. He then demanded for the suspension of the trial and applied for an adjournment to enable his client and the legal team time to study the new charges and prepare their defense. The prosecution, however, objected to the adjournment and maintained that the fresh amendment was in line with evidence already tendered. In his ruling, the tribunal chairman agreed with the defense counsel that the defendant needed time to study the fresh charge. He adjourned the matter till February 23rd for the Senate President to take a fresh plea. Staying at the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the chairman, Mr. Danladi Umar, on Thursday, the 9th of February, approved the filing of a case against Justice Sylvester Nguta of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, Justice Adeniyi Ademola of the Federal High Court Abuja. The tribunal has received the charges against the two men from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, SAN. The charges range from non-declaration of assets to false assets declaration, offences which are contrary to Section 15 of the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act Cap C-15, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004. The tribunal is expected to communicate to the parties dates for the arraignment of the judges. Both judges are already standing trial separately on allegations of fraud. And still on the cases against the judges, the lead prosecuting counsel, Mr. Charles Adeogun Phillips, has withdrawn from the trial of Justice Sylvester Nguta, who was being prosecuted by the federal government on money laundering charges involving about 500 million naira. Mr. Adeogun Phillips, a private legal practitioner and former prosecutor with the International Criminal Court, announced his decision to withdraw from the case when the case came up before Justice John Soho of the Federal High Court in Abuja on Thursday, the 9th of February. Though he gave no reason for his decision, Adeogun Phillips's withdrawal is thought to be linked to his open displeasure over the federal government's decision to withdraw the charges against the Supreme Court Registrar, Mr. Ahmed Saleh, and two others on charges of illegally diverting 2.2 billion naira belonging to the court. In the case against Justice Adeniyi Ademola and two others, the prosecution has tendered some cash, guns, and other items allegedly recovered from the judge's home by operatives of the Department of State Services, the DSS. Operatives of the DSS on December 7 last year had raided the houses of some judges, including Justice Ademola. The cash was brought into the court in bags and tendered by the prosecution through its 11th witness, one Umar Ahmed, an exhibit keeper with the DSS. The defense lawyers did not object to the admission of the items in evidence by the court. Justice Jude Okeke has invited the Director of Litigation of the FCT High Court, Mr. Madugu Mohammed, to make an arrangement for the safekeeping of the money, which will be made available to the court whenever the need arises. At the Federal High Court in Lagos, the EFCC on Wednesday, the 8th of February, arraigned a senior advocate of Nigeria, Dele Belgore, on a 5-count charge of money laundering alongside a former Minister of National Planning, Professor Abubakar Sulaiman. They were both arraigned before Justice Rilwan Aikawa. The two defendants pleaded not guilty to the charges, and their lawyers made a request for their bail. The court granted them bail on self-recognizance but the judge asked them to deposit their passports with the Deputy Chief Registrar of the court. Justice Aikawa then adjourned till February 23rd for commencement of trial. Still in Lagos, a former Minister of Finance, Senator Nanadi Usman, has asked Justice Muslim Hassan to grant her permission to travel abroad for medical treatment. In an application, Mrs. Usman said doctors at the National Hospital in Abuja have recommended that she receives further treatment abroad after suffering a relapse following a surgery. The application, however, could not be heard because the judge ruled that he will first consider a pending application filed by the other defendants challenging the court's jurisdiction. Mrs. Usman is standing trial alongside a former Minister of Aviation, Chief Femi Fani-Kayode, a former national chairman of the Association of Local Government of Nigeria, Mr. Yusuf Danjuma, and the company said to belong to him, Joint Trust Dimensions Nigeria Limited. They were all arraigned on a 17-count charge of laundering about 4.9 billion naira. Another judge of the Federal High Court, Lagos, Justice Abdulaziz Anka, on Tuesday, February 7th, ordered the temporary forfeiture of the sum of 75 million naira discovered by the EFCC in the bank account of a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Mike Ozekome. The EFCC, in a motion ex parte, had told the court that the money was suspected to be a proceed of crime. Justice Anka then ordered the temporary forfeiture of the money for 120 days and also ordered that any aggrieved party can file an appeal. Mr. Mike Ozekome has, however, insisted that the money was part payment of his professional fees for matters which he's handling for Governor Ayo Fayose of Ekiti State. And we round off with the report that the Nigerian Bar Association, the NBA, has shortlisted 9 persons for appointment as justices of the Supreme Court. The names, which have been forwarded to the Acting Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onoge, were shortlisted after a rigorous process of shortlisting done by a select committee chaired by the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, Abubakar Mahmood, SAN.
And that's the program for today. Please send in any questions or comments about the program and indeed any area of the law. You can watch this episode again or even past ones on our YouTube channel. I am Shola Shieli. Thank you for watching.